Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. It is Jackstown. So we are down to the final 4 teams here in this year's March Madness, and I can say that after watching, or at least following, pretty much every game this tournament, I've thoroughly enjoyed it and it's been a great time, and I can totally understand why everyone's missed not having this tournament last year, because this tournament's always such a great time of year and is almost perfect. But emphasis on the word almost for today's video, because today I thought I could take on the difficult task of coming up with 5 ways to make this tournament even better than it already is. Like I said, nothing's perfect in this world, and today we're just going to voice our opinions, have some fun with something that is very difficult to make even better, but we're going to try doing it today. So here are 5 ways to make March Madness even better than it already is. The first way to make March Madness even better is involving the first 4 games of the tournament. I think when selecting the first 4 matchups, the committee should change a couple things with the way they seed the matchups. The first thing I would recommend is if a team wins their conference tournament and earns an automatic bid into the big dance, they should not have to play in the first 4. Now I know this would be a rather big change since 2 of the first 4 matchups are between 2 16 seeds that won their small conferences tournament, but let's not kid ourselves. Chances are you're barely watching or barely paying attention to those 2 games. The 2 first 4 games that you're actually watching are the 2 that involve the 11 seeds, because they might actually have a semi-decent chance to make at least a little noise in the actual tournament, such as UCLA this year getting to the Final 4 all the way from the first 4. So no one cares about the 2 matchups in which the winner has never gone on to even win the next matchup. I know UMBC was a 16 seed, but they didn't play in the first 4, so 16 seeds who played that entry game have historically gotten bounced 100% of the time. So why even play these games? How about instead have the other 2 games be between 4 bubble teams that would have a much higher seed than 16. Usually these teams are seeded between 9 and 12 and actually might have a chance to win a round of 64 game. So I think it would generate so much more interest if the NCAA went this route. And listen, those small conferences only get 1 team to represent them each year, so it's hard to make it to the dance consistently from one of these conferences. So give them some love and just put them in the round of 64 and everyone wins. The second way to make March Madness even better is to incorporate more NBA rules into the actual game. The 2 main reasons for this is because even though there are a ton of college basketball fans who are used to the rules watching the tournament, there's also a large portion of primarily NBA fans who only step into the college basketball sphere just for March Madness and aren't accustomed to some of the rules. But the main reason to do this is because, simply put, the NBA rules are better and make more sense. For example, when there's a tie-up or aka a jump ball, the idea of the possession arrow where it alternates between who gets possession each time is kind of dumb. Just have a jump ball like at the beginning of the game, just like in the NBA. Toss it up into the air and see who wins the tip for their team. I know it still involves chance because the players involved will probably have different heights and athletic abilities, but I feel like you at least have an opportunity to factor into your team getting possession instead of essentially a coin flip. The next rule that needs to change is the 1-and-1 rule. If your team is in the bonus, but they miss the first one, they don't get a second free throw? Who thought that would be a good idea? Just get 2 free throws every time when in the bonus, just like in the NBA. Listen, there's some bad free throw shooters in college basketball, and I always feel like when these guys get fouled, they almost always seemingly miss the first free throw, and they pretty much get no reward for drawing a foul. Making that second free throw and even getting 1 point out of it is still way better than nothing. There's just no reason to continue having the 1-and-1 rule. The third rule that should change should be the following. In college, if you hook and hold someone, it's a flagrant foul. Why? Half the time it's involuntary and unintentional. Players are usually just fighting for the ball. Just call it a traditional foul. Come on now. And finally, let a team advance the ball to half court when a timeout is called before a full court inbound, just like in the NBA. In college, if the other team makes a go-ahead shot with, let's say, 1 second left in the game, you might as well say the game is over since the ball has to be inbounded from the full court. Seriously? In the NBA, this last second or 2 is so exciting because you can actually get a decent shot off. But in college, with just a second or 2, you normally just heave it down the court only to have the pass intercepted and the clock run out. Let them advance the ball to make every second count and make games even more exciting. Incorporate NBA rules. Make it happen. The third way to make March Madness even better is to reseed every matchup after each round. Let me explain this one. So, if a lower seed like Oral Roberts this year, for example, wins, then instead of moving on to face the winner of the 7 versus 10 matchup, like a 2 seed normally would, they should instead face the highest remaining seed left in their region. In this case, it would be Baylor, who was a number 1 seed this year. What this does is at least give some kind of reward to the higher seeds, since, unlike in other sports leagues, there's no home court advantage. This at least gives a team more incentive to get the highest seed possible. And also, riddle me this, why does a 7-seeded Florida team who was decent at best for most of the year get the pleasure of facing a 15 seed when a 1 seed in Baylor has to face a 9 seeded Wisconsin? I know Oral Roberts ended up beating Florida and Baylor won too, so it doesn't really emphasize my point, but I think you get what I mean. Most years, you'd rather face a 15 seed than a 5 seed. I just think reseeding after each round gives higher teams a much deserved reward after playing well during the regular season, since they don't seem to have much of an advantage over other teams since they have to play the same amount of games and they don't get any home court advantage. The fourth way to make March Madness even better is to move the college three-point line back to where the NBA three-point line is altogether. The three-point line in the NBA from straight away is 23 feet and 9 inches from the basket. In the NCAA, it's 22 feet and 1.75 inches from the basket. Even though it's not a significant difference on paper, trust me, if you watch both NBA and college basketball, you can definitely tell the difference. Listen, maybe a decade or two ago, this argument would be difficult to make, but in this era of all-time high three-point volume and people shooting seemingly from the logo with a much higher frequency and level of confidence, shooting from where NBA players do is not a big deal. I mean, some of these guys are just as good at shooting as a lot of NBA players. They're big boys. They can make the small adjustment, and it makes it seem a lot less of a layup as a wide open college three-pointer looks to be sometimes. I mean, I've seen some guys in this tournament be wide open and think to myself, it almost seems impossible for a decent shooter to miss a shot like that for an NBA fan like me. It looks like a mid-range shot at times. And the fifth and final way to improve March Madness is my biggest complaint about March Madness, and to be honest, this is the change I want more than any other change, and that is to significantly reduce the commercial breaks and game stoppages. Oh my God, I cannot tell you how annoyed I've been, particularly this year, to watch some of these games and it seems like every other dead ball there's a timeout, and it sometimes totally ruins the flow of the game. I also looked this up just to see how many TV mandatory timeouts there are, and it's 10 timeouts per game. Are you kidding me? That's not even including the 4 per half given to each team in addition to the TV timeouts that also carry over to the next half when unused and also never negates the TV timeout. I've seen several games this tournament where there was a coach's timeout called at like the 4:05 mark, for example, in the second half, or the first half for that matter, so it was a commercial. Then when it came back, there was a dead ball, let's say like 5 seconds later, and that led to another commercial because of the mandatory 4-minute mark TV timeout, which is ridiculous. And the halftime in the regular season is normally 15 minutes, just like in the NBA, but the NCAA tournament has a 20-minute halftime, which is totally unnecessary. Listen, I get that extra commercials generate revenue, and this is the time of year to do that for college basketball, but if it's at the cost of losing audience engagement due to the constant stoppages, which I'm sure it has for some people, then it's not worth it, which leads me to ask this to the NCAA.
What did it cost?
Everything.
And in the words of the great Don LaGreca regarding March Madness commercials,
Fix that!
yeah, just fix it. Please cut down on the extremely excessive and unnecessary commercials, and we can all enjoy these games even more. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment what changes you would like to see in March Madness, if there are any changes you'd like to see. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and you're a big sports fan. And yeah, guys, just to reiterate, nothing could really diminish my love for this tournament. I love this time of year. Today I thought, it was just going to be fun to just let out some of my opinions and some of my pet peeves, because at this point, like I said, I am nitpicking. This tournament really is great, and every tournament and everything in this world is not perfect. So I just thought today we could reach into that small, region where it isn't perfect, but overall, it's been a great tournament, and I would almost change nothing about it, almost. Yeah, guys, so that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching again, as always, and I'll talk to you guys later.